Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So what we're going to do today, it's a very short lesson. We're just going to go have an overview of what we have already done. So we're going to go through all the bits that we've done. And although we've done bits and pieces of Qur'an City, I'd like to look at it as I'd like you to look at it as an overview of Qur'an City. So basically what we did in Qur'an City was place the 114 chapters of the Qur'an into a city. And we divided them into Makki and Madani Surah. You all know the 86 Makki, 28 Madani. You also know that Makki was before Hijrah. You have to look at the timeline. Don't worry about where it says, not because they weren't only revealed in Makkah. As you know, with Surah Al-Hajj, it was revealed on a journey, away from a journey. Some Makki surahs have Madani ayat, some Madani surahs have Makki ayat. So all you need to know is that Makki surah, those revealed before Hijrah, Madani after Hijrah. We had yellow for Makki, green for Madani. This city will never downsize, it will never grow. And then we made all these little suburbs, as I call them, around a city center. What we looked at, particularly this term, when we looked through everything, is Kaaba Corner, and that's what I'm going to focus on. I won't go through all the bits of Qur'an City, but I'd like you to go on the website or go onto YouTube on the Q Fatima channel, and you'll find lots of information on different surahs that we've done. But we are going to focus on Kaaba Corner, which means in September we will look at another corner, more likely Kul Corner, because I like to look at the corners, or we'll look at City Center, we'll see what works. But right now we're looking at Kaaba Corner. So in Kaaba Corner we had 3 surahs that we looked at. The 3 surahs were Surah Al-Hajj, Surah Al-Fil and Surah Al-Quraysh. And these are all pertaining to the Kaaba. That's why we called it Kaaba Corner. We started off with Fil and Quraysh. So Fil, is an elephant. Quraysh was the people who lived in Makkah. They were known as Quraysh. We talked about it in great detail. If you forget, go back to the YouTube channel and start watching it. And we finished with Surah Al-Hajj. So I'm going to start with a real overview of Surah Al-Fil. So that was Surah Al-Fil basically. There was only one section, there was 5 ayat, and if you looked at the focus, somebody said, what is Surah Al-Fil about? Alright, you all know the story about Abraham and the elephant and the Kaaba, but in essence it's divine protection of the Kaaba, and it talks about someone whose God is wealth and power, so they don't see any sacredness in the Kaaba. So we looked, or in the divine symbols as such, so we looked at Abraham. So Abraha wanted to make Yemen really, really big. The moment you feel, that's what you think. And he thought, you know what, if I build a massive church and I put lots of carpets and chandeliers and make it really lovely, then people will not go to the Kaaba, they will come to me because they will see how beautiful it is. What he didn't understand, and people who don't understand Allah or don't understand religion don't see sacredness in anything. So he thought that would divert them. When that didn't work, he thought, okay, now that's not working, so I'm going to destroy them. And so he reaches out to his friends in Ethiopia, and there they had elephants. The Arabs had never seen elephants before, whether it was one elephant or many elephants. And you all know the story, how he goes to try and destroy the Kaaba. And Abu Talib tells him, you know what? Whoever this house belongs to, will look after it. Now, the event, you all know what happened. But the event gave Makkah its independence, and it was called the Year of the Elephant. You've got to remember that it was in this year that the Prophet was born. And at that time, today, we have our calendar from Hijrah. But at that time, they had their calendar either before the event of the elephant or the Year of the Elephant, or after the Year of the Elephant. While we do everything before Hijrah or after Hijrah, and that's how important it is to us. What does this surah do? Whenever you have a problem in life, recite it. Marhum Ayatollah Khomeini, when the Americans tried to come into Iran, and they had whatever their issues were, they had an issue with Iran. When they came in, he recited this surah, and these helicopters they had that had made for the desert, they said sand got into the engines, but they were destroyed. And it was this surah that he read, and it actually solves even the most difficult of problems, and it keeps you safe from enemies. Okay, so what we're going to look at also is Surah Al-Quraysh. My goodness, and you know that these two are recited together. Okay, Surah Al-Fil and Surah Al-Quraysh. Again, if you look at Surah Al-Quraysh, we talked about divine protection. Here Allah says protection and rizq Rizq is sustenance, so it means your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that which keeps you alive, only comes from Allah. And He's telling them here, you've got to realize that you live in a valley which has nothing. So the Quraysh had absolutely nothing. They lived in the desert. There was nothing at all. And He says, where do you think you get everything from? Have you ever thought about it? It is I, Allah, who provides you with stuff. Okay, so what we see here is that the Quraysh were a people who traveled north to Syria in the summer. Now you need to remember that. Syria, summer. Winter, Yemen. You know how you're going to remember that? Syria, summer, and then Yemen, winter. You remember, to do their trade. Because they had nothing at all. They really didn't have anything that they could do. So we saw that was the focus. So the surah, the way it shares its relationship with Surah Al-Fil is that maybe if it says Li'ila fi Quraysh, and I paraphrased it, Allah is saying, I foiled the plan of Abraham and his troops so that the Quraysh could be secure. That's why they read together. What is the benefit of recitation? If you recite it over food, then you will find that you will not find the ill effects of food in there. You should recite it every time you sit down to eat. If you recite it over flowers, it causes the family in which that house has those flowers to go together in love. It actually creates love. So try and recite it. And if your heart hurts, somebody's hurt you, recite Surah Al-Quraysh. It's an amazing thing that it does. Okay, so you can see here the same thing. I'd like you to go back to Q Fatima, listen to the YouTube presentation of these surahs, and you'll remember that again. And finally, we did Surah Al-Hajj. My goodness, I just love that surah. I know everybody says whatever they want to say. Hajj, really? When do you read Surah Al-Hajj? But I absolutely love Surah Al-Hajj. So we're going to look at Surah Al-Hajj, which we did. Now, this is the longest one we've seen. We divided it into 8 sections. It's got 78 ayat. Focus. And this is what you need to know for every single building, every single surah of Quran City. So the focus of Surah Al-Hajj, 3 kinds of human beings. There's the believers, those who reject divine guidance, and those who are on the cliff. Remember, we talked about them. You know the rights of Hajj. It's quite easy to remember that because it's called Surah Al-Hajj. But then what is success? It tells you success is establish salah in your life. And if your salah is right, you will be able to help humanity. That means you will serve human beings. You will give zakah. You will help them. And you will always try your best to be the best of human beings. In other words, I would say that if death were to come, you'd say, I did my best to leave the world a better place than what I found it in. And in essence, that is what Surah Al-Hajj is about. And to me, that was the overview that I need you to know. I told you one of the things about this surah was revealed day and night, on a journey at home, during war and during peace. And if you recited it once every 3 days, you will definitely visit the Kaaba, and maybe we can go together. But I'm going to go over the sections of this one because there are 8 sections. So you know the first section, 3 kinds of people. That's all you need to remember. And you know 2 on either side, believe and don't believe, and then those in the middle who are on the edge. Then we talked about the rope that was tied from the heavens to the earth. That means somebody who tried to be their best, but when they didn't see results, they gave up. So these are people who give up. Third section, we saw the punishment that Allah has for those who defy Allah. In other words, they don't serve humanity. They're mean to human beings as well. And then it showed those who believe. We looked at what to do at Hajj. And then we saw here there was now permission given to defend themselves. Until then, they hadn't got that permission. We saw reflection on creation, and you remember I told you about the ayat that you read that is wonderful for hajat. Okay. And then we saw section 7. It showed the weakness. Remember the fly. So you think 7, think about the fly. The fly is like the weakness of those who call upon other than Allah. They can't create a fly, neither can they take anything back that a fly takes from them. And finally, I love this section. So this is where it tells you how to be the best. It says, pray, serve humanity, and always do your best. So in essence, that is for me a sort of overview of what we have done today, okay, or what we have done this year, Kaaba corner. And if you can remember that, then next year when we start in September, we will do one of the other corners, and I hope God gives us enough life to be able to finish Quran City. Okay, so Rabbana taqabbal minna